Hi, I'm Mr. Hazel, and today I'm going to show you how to play rock, paper, scissors against a microbit. You're going to need a microbit, a USB cable, and a battery pack. Start by plugging in your microbit to your computer using the USB cable, going to makecode.microbit.org on your favorite browser, and click New Project. I'm going to name mine Rock, Paper, Scissors. If I'm going too quickly, make sure you pause until you're caught up, and then you can always hit play again. Also, if you haven't done any of the other videos, this video sort of assumes that you've already had a few tries at this, so it's a little bit quicker. If you haven't done any of the other projects, maybe go back and do some of those first. Alright, let's get started. So we're not going to need the OnStart or Forever code blocks today, so let's delete those. But what we do want to do is have an input. So I'm going to do a button input because I think that it would be easier if the screen is still when I see whether it's rock, paper, or scissors that the microbit has chosen. So I'm going to choose button A. So that means that when the input, or button A being pressed, occurs, all of the pieces of code that we put inside of this space are going to be executed by the microbit. Now that we have our input, we're going to move on to something we haven't done before, and that is to create a variable. So if all a variable is an object that can be seen in different ways, and the different ways that that object is seen will tell the program to execute different functions. Now that sounds like super confusing, but just think about it like a stoplight. A stoplight has 3 different colors on it, red, yellow, and green, but it's all the same object. It's just a stoplight. Now, whether that stoplight is showing red, yellow, or green, that will determine the actions that people who are driving or walking are supposed to take. So it's exactly the same thing with the variable we are going to create. So let's go into the variables menu here in our coding blocks and select make a variable. So the variable name, I'm going to name this variable microbit hand. Okay. And let's see. Okay, so we've created that variable. Now, we want the variable to be able to be seen in different ways. Just like the traffic light has 3 different colors, red, yellow, and green, we want our variable, or our microbit hand, to have 3 different ways that it can be seen: as a rock, as paper, or as scissors. So to do this, we're going to go into the logic functions, and we're going to take out this coding block. If true, then. Okay, so this one, we've used this one before, but it says if true, then it will do this code, or else it will do this code. Now, we don't want the microbit choosing between 2 options. We want it choosing between 3 options. So what we're going to do is click this plus, and that will add one more option underneath. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we are going to go into logic again, and we're going to select the 0 equals 0. Now, if you're not quite following along why the code is doing this yet, don't stress out too much, because we're going to get all the pieces onto the coding surface in the coding area here, and once it all gets put together, I'll walk you through it step by step why it's doing what it's doing. But for now, we just need some pieces on the board to try and make it a little bit clearer. So we have 0 equals 0. But the variable we're talking about is the microbit hand. So let's go into variables and select microbit hand. And we're going to bring this over here and let it snap into the first 0 of our variable 0 equals 0 coding block. So we're going to change this one to microbit hand equals 1. All right? And then I'm going to right click on this whole block and select duplicate. That way I don't have to bring all of these pieces out again from our coding block menu. Duplicate. But instead of microbit hand equals 1, I'm going to choose microbit hand equals 2. All right. Now I'm going to drag the microbit hand equals 1 over until it reaches the true, and then let it go. And then I'm going to bring the microbit hand equals 2 over to the if else and let it drop in place. And then because this is still all grayed out, I know that this entire block of code doesn't have an input that will tell the microbit that it needs to activate this code. So I'm going to drag it up underneath the input of on button A pressed. Okay, so now it's all full color, so we know that this code is going to be read, all of it, and executed once button A is pressed. That's our input. 2 or 3. So this section will be the code that it will execute if it selects 1. This will be the section of code it will execute if it selects 2. And there's only one variable, or one way the variable can be read, which is 3 left. And that will be, the code will be executed here for that variable. So now we can talk about this logic function. So all this is doing is we've already got our variable so that it will equal either 1, 2, or 3. That's what this part of the code will do. It sets the value of microbit hand to 1, 2, or 3 randomly. And now we want the microbit to know what to do with that information. So once it sees the variable as 1, 2, or 3, what do we want it to do? And that's why we have this logic function here. And this logic function simply says if our variable, microbit hand, equals 1, then do this code. If it equals 2, then do this code. For anything else, do this code. Now, anything else is only going to be a 3. So if the random number that is assigned to the variable of microbit hand is 1, it will do this, 2, it will do this, or 3, it will do this. So what do we want it to do? Well, we want it to play us rock, paper, scissors. So I think the easiest way for it to show us what it's selected is visually by lighting up the LED board. So let's go into LED, the LED menu, the basic menu, and we're going to select Show LEDs. Okay, and I'm going to snap that into place here. Once again, you can see the code block fits perfectly into here. And I'm going to right click and duplicate again because it's easier for me to do that than it is to go all the way back through the menu. Now you can see it's snapped into a place that I don't want. I don't want it to show both of these here, so I'm going to scroll down a bit and simply shift this down to the next area, duplicate it again, and shift it down into the else. Let's go minus a bit here so we can sort of see it all at once. Here we go. It's a little bit small, but basically you can see that what we have is when the button is selected, button A, that input will cause the microbit to make our variable or microbit hand equal to 1, 2, or 3. And if it's equal to 1, it will show this picture, and if it's equal to 2, it will show this picture, and if it's equal to 3, it will show this picture. Now right now, because I had accidentally selected one LED light, all 3 are exactly the same. But I think that for rock, paper, and scissors, it should look like a rock, a paper, and a scissor. So I'm going to create my rock first. Here's the ground. And here is my rock. Okay, so I think that's going to be my rock. And right here, this one is going to be a paper. I think a paper is a pretty solid rectangle shape. Okay, and you know what? I like that shape, but I think I want it to be in the middle of my page. So I'm going to, or in the middle of my display, I should say. So I'm going to move it over by selecting and unselecting the squares. Now I'm sure you'll remember from the earlier display videos that whatever LEDs are lit up on this block will be, or white, will be lit up in real life on the microbit, because this grid of 5 by 5 squares is exactly the same as this grid of 5 by 5 LED lights on your microbit. So we have rock, paper, and let's see here. I'm going to make scissors, so I think I'm going to have them open, just like I would if I was playing. Okay, ooh. There we go. If you select something that you didn't mean to, you can just simply click it again and it will unselect. I think I'm going to make some handles for these scissors here. All right, there we go. Okay, so this is literally everything you have to do. So let's click the ellipses down here and select Download to Microbit. Now it's going to come up with the saving menu. You're going to want to make sure that it's going to be saved into the microbit drive. On this computer, that's drive D. Click Save. Now that orange LED light at the back of the microbit is going to flash while the program is being downloaded. Once the program is completely downloaded, that flashing will stop and it will just be orange and on. And at that point, I'm going to close out these extra notifications. But at that point, you can unplug your microbit and the program is successfully downloaded onto it. But to see it, we're going to need some power to those LEDs. So here is our battery pack. Now it has a groove on one side of the battery pack connector, and on our battery pack connector point on our microbit, there is a channel that lines up with that groove. So push them both together. There we go. Okay, so now all we have to do is give the microbit the input it needs to know that it needs to execute this chunk of coding. So for us, that's pressing button A. So if I press this button, it's just going to instantly show me the random number it's selected for the microbit hand, and it's going to display that by showing either a rock for 1, a paper for 2, or scissors for whatever else there is, and in our case that's only 3. So I think for me, I'm going to go ahead and I'm not going to do rock, paper, scissors after I push the button because it's going to instantly show me. So I'm going to go rock, paper, scissors, and then click it, and we'll see who wins. I really don't know what's going to happen. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot! What? Rock crushes scissors! Well, I lost this battle. Let's see if you win yours.